Facts First presents Wild Facts That Sound Too Far Out to Be True. There's some pretty crazy things in this world. Some occur in nature, some are man-made, some occurred in history. Either way, there are things out there that'll blow your mind. Here are a few wild facts that sound too far out to be true. There's a creature in the ocean called the oceanic isopod. It's a fish parasite that actually replaces a fish's tongue. It enters through the fish's gills, and they sever the blood vessels of the tongue, and then they take over the food consumption. You gotta see it to believe it. Oceana is a nonprofit organization that uncovers the truth about fish that consumers buy. According to what the organization discovered, much of the fish that you buy is purposefully mislabeled. That means that when you think that you're buying expensive yellowtail, you could actually be eating catfish or some other cheap type of fish. Sadly, you never know what kind of fish you're eating unless you caught it yourself. When you think of a person being put to death by guillotine, you often think of life hundreds of years ago. Today, that just sounds like cruel and unusual punishment. What you might not know is that in France, the guillotine was used up until 1977. That was the same year Star Wars: A New Hope came out. Mind-blowing. Jellyfish look bizarre, and their anatomy is just as bizarre and a bit disgusting. They use the same hole to eat as they do to excrete waste. That's pretty disgusting if you think about it. Many people hate bugs. Some are terrified of bugs. If you're one of those people, you should know that at all times of the day, there are bugs on your face. Little mites with worm-like bodies all over your face. Fortunately, they're microscopic and you can't see them, but they are there. Fortunately, you can't see them without a microscope. If you could, it'd probably freak you out. Food and liquid travel down the same tube in your throat, and because of this, it's impossible to swallow and breathe at the same time. If you try, there's a good chance you're going to start choking. Since the choking can result in aspirating your food and causing pneumonia, just take our word for it. Nearly all the water that we drink on a daily basis has been recycled again and again for millions of years. That means that when you pour yourself a glass of water, there's a very good chance that it passed through a dinosaur at some point. Pretty crazy. Kinda gross, but still cool. Everyone knows Australia is enormous, but did you know that it's the size of a planet? The diameter of Australia is almost twice the diameter of Pluto, so Australia is actually bigger than a planet. Assuming you still consider Pluto a planet, but you know what I mean. Since diamonds are a girl's best friend, all women should want to visit Saturn or Jupiter. On these two planets, it literally rains diamonds. The intense lightning storms turn methane into soot, which turns to diamonds before crashing down to the ground. Unfortunately, we can't get to either of these planets to collect the loot. If it rained diamonds on Earth the way it does on Saturn and Jupiter, they would have zero value. There are plenty of jobs where you're expected to smile all day. Any job where you work with the public requires you to be in a good mood, or at least appear to be so. However, that fake smile can cause withdrawal from the job, and that can be detrimental to your health. When you think of carrots, you think of a bright orange vegetable, right? What you might not know is that carrots weren't always orange. Originally, they were bright purple, like an eggplant. According to the experts at the Carrot Museum, the orange color came from the gradual selection within the yellow carrot populations. Over time, the purple carrot evolved to the color orange. If you've ever seen a movie or a TV show that features vampires, you know that they are afraid of garlic. Well, if you want to keep vampires away, you wear a necklace made from garlic. Leeches are basically the vampires of the animal kingdom because they attach to the skin and suck the blood. Well, scientists in Norway who were studying leeches, they found that they were more attracted to garlic-covered skin than clean skin. So according to science, technically vampires are afraid of garlic, but leeches love it. You ever had a craving for a nice big cup of ice? If so, it doesn't mean that you're craving something crunchy. And it doesn't mean that you're thirsty. Craving ice is actually a symptom of something more serious, such as anemia or a lack of iron. If your cravings continue even after having that cup of ice, you need to call your doctor. It might be nothing, but it's worth checking out. Better to be safe than sorry. You ever heard the expression, "He's been running around like a chicken with his head cut off"? Well, it's a common expression, and it sounds silly. I mean, how could a chicken live without a head, right? Well, in Fruita, Colorado, there was a chicken named Mike, and at one point the farmer tried to cut its head off to have him for dinner, but he managed to live for 18 months before passing away. It proves chickens can live without a head. Every year, Fruita holds a ceremony in his honor. Mike the Headless Chicken. Yep, he gets his own day. Vampire bats are strange little creatures. They didn't get their name because they turn into vampires when they're not flying. They actually got their name due to the amount of blood that they consume. Every time a vampire bat feeds from one of their victims, they consume half of their own body weight in blood. When you think about consuming half of your body weight in food, can you imagine how much blood that is for the bat? Flamingos are many beautiful shades of pink. It's this pink color that makes them so distinctive. When flamingos are born, though, they're not pink. They're actually white when they're born. They get their pink color from all of the shrimp that they eat. Can you imagine what a flamingo would look like if their main diet was eggplants or carrots? Women wear high heels all the time, and some women prefer smaller heels that add just an inch or two to their height. Other women love the really high heels that make them 6 or 7 inches taller. What you might not know is that high heels were initially designed for men. Many years ago, taller men were considered to be more powerful, so men would wear higher heels to look more impressive. Eventually, it became a style strictly for women, and if a man wore high heels with a suit and tie today, he would look pretty silly. In Japan, there are many breweries, but one of them stands out among the rest for a pretty disgusting reason. The brewery, Un Kodokuro, and elephants. They're involved in the brewing of beer. Actually, the elephant's droppings are used for making beer. Elephant poop is used in the brewing process, and that is really gross. Somehow, though, it still sells and it's extremely popular in Japan. The Troxler effect causes a person to see something that actually isn't there in their peripheral vision in mirrors. People who experience this freakout will often believe that they're being haunted. People also tend to think that they're crazy. This might explain some instances of people seeing shadow people. The acid in your stomach is very powerful. In fact, it's so powerful that according to experts, it could dissolve a razor blade. Now, if you want to prove that yourself, you'd likely end up in the hospital, so it's better if you just take the expert's word for it. Most people think that they've always had the same color eyes that they were born with. Well, if you're Caucasian, that's not necessarily true. About 10 to 15% of the Caucasian population undergoes changes in their eye color as they age. It's not a dramatic change, but if you do experience a drastic change in your eye color, that's a sign you could have a disease in your eye, like Horner's syndrome or pigmentary glaucoma, and you want to talk to your doctor. But otherwise, you were probably born with blue eyes, and then your eyes gradually became the color they are now. Your lungs are a lot larger than you might think. They have a surface area that is roughly the size of a tennis court, about 2,800 square feet. If you have to choose between eating or sleeping, choose sleep. You could live for about 3 weeks without food. However, you can only last about 11 days without sleep before your body starts shutting down. Some people prefer to sleep on their backs. Some roll over in the middle of the night and end up on their backs. What you might not know is that humans are the only living things that sleep on our backs. Subscribe for more!